So obviously we're here today to talk about skills gap, and I just wanted to share really some of BIMA's point of view. And so BIMA, just very quickly for those of you that don't know, we are the industry body for digital in the UK. We have 300 plus corporate members, and we employ over 15,000 people. And I hope, I'm not going to do a show of hands because I'll probably embarrass myself, but I hope many of you are indeed BIMA members. So what do? We do three things. One, we work very hard on connecting. So we do things like run breakfast briefings. We also work very hard on regional activity. So we have brilliant regional hubs in Liverpool, Bristol, Bournemouth, to make sure that BIMA is not just a London-centric organisation. We also work on developing talent and inspiring new talent, and I'll talk a little bit about some of our initiatives there. And we also look at championing our industry. We work hard as an industry, and we should celebrate that. And we do things like the BIMA Hot 100 and our BIMA Awards, which are the longest running digital awards in the world. So in terms of the challenge, so a few stats, some of which are probably not quite correct, and I've got some that definitely are correct because they're BIMA stats, and we'll be unveiling them tonight. But you can see all sorts of stats. The O2 750,000 by 2017 is the most quoted stat, I think, in this country. Here's some others that talks about general job vacancies. And I think when you look at stats, the key thing really is the upward trend in job vacancies. So the 740,000 unfilled job vacancies is actually the whole of the UK, and I think the key thing there is there's 170,000 more since the last marker of 2014 to today, and it's actually that 170,000 more gap that contributes to that 10 billion. I think the thing is, it's huge. If you look at the US, what they talk about is actually, I think it's something like $3 trillion missed opportunity through workforce not having the right digital skills. So not about finding people in jobs, but the people in jobs not being skilled. And I think that there's also some worrying things. Computer graduates is lower now than it was 10 years ago, etc. So pretty big challenge that we're facing, and I'm sure that will be mirrored a lot through tonight. We surveyed our membership for Digital Day, which I'll come on to talk about, back in November. And here's just some stats that we've got from our actual survey. So we surveyed 117 of our companies, so about just over 30% of our membership base, with a turnover of 1.36 billion. And this is what they said. 95% report that growth has been held back by shortage of skills, and 75% said finding the right skills is their biggest challenge they're facing. And lost revenue, so this is proper calculated lost revenue, just for our little membership, for just under £500 million in the next 2 years. Huge in terms of our lost revenue. That basically means about 17-18% loss on our potential turnover every year. The roles that were most difficult to find, as you would expect, coding, analytical, visual arts and sales, but things like around people, organisational, maths and written skills were not very far behind in terms of our survey. So a lot of work to do really around that skills area. A couple of other stats that were quite alarming really. Time to fill a role. So 61% said it takes 3 to 5 months to fill a role that they've got as a vacancy. And for any agency owner or anybody involved in that, you'll know how debilitating that is in terms of your own business's growth. And then in terms of diversity, gender, 50-50, female to male, about 37%, but only 7% employ more than 50% women in our industry, which is supposed to be a modern, new and progressive industry. And when we look at ethnic diversity, only 20% of people employ more than 10% of people from an ethnically diverse background, and 26% in comparison is 100% white, which, again, are pretty horrible figures really for an industry that's pretty nascent and is championing digital skills and diversity. So in terms of that, it's easy to stand up and say what's wrong in terms of what we're doing. Our biggest thing that we do is Digital Day, which is a national event that we've been running now for 4 years. linking industry with schools and colleges across the UK. It's a huge event for us. We work with hundreds of schools and thousands of students, and really what's quite interesting with that is some of the changes that we've seen, because we actually are seeing some signs of life and some signs of hope in terms of what we do. The first one is around awareness. We really look at awareness and intent. And in terms of awareness, 49% this year said that they were aware prior to Digital Day, which might seem good or bad, I don't know, but it's a 73% increase on last year. The awareness of our industry has gone up significantly. And then in terms of growing intent, so we saw a nice swing in terms of intent to enter our industry before the day and after the day. And again, I think the key thing that figure doesn't actually show is that intent before is 18.5% higher than it was last year. So we've either, as an industry or as a nation, understanding digital more, or the people attending these types of events are actually more oriented towards our industry. And I think there's a bit of both, but I'm going to sort of go on the side of people are getting to know more about us, which I think is really good and really important. And we also talk to teachers, and there was a couple of stats actually which I thought was quite amazing. 72% felt that they were equipped to deliver digital skills to their students, and 79% were aware of the digital industry, which is a huge increase. And again, it's whether we've got a biased sample or whether things are getting a lot better out there. And I think when you talk to the BBC about some of their initiatives, they will certainly support that awareness, and awareness linked to intent is actually growing pretty well in our country. But I think the stat around 84% of teachers suggesting that they don't believe there's sufficient time was a really important stat. A lot of them are really embracing extracurricular as a way to actually compensate for a lack of time in the curriculum, which is quite a big debate that BIMA are actually involved in at the moment. And also the 6% of teachers recommend taking part in initiatives like Digital Day. And there's lots of people talking here today about their own initiatives. They are welcomed and embraced, and they are welcomed from a view of awareness, but they're also welcomed from a view of inspiring intent and consideration in their schools. So that's Digital Day, and that runs in November. Every year, and we're signing up agencies and we're signing up schools. So we match agencies with schools, we go in for a day, we talk to them about our industry, and then they work on exercises all day, which it becomes a national competition, and then they go on to win, hopefully, the national award. We also work on much more broader awareness initiatives. We work with a number of universities, and our membership give up their time. All of us are employers or involved in the digital industry. We give up our time to work with a number of universities and schools on curriculum design. And we also work with a lot of our schools, actually, that where we do go in for Digital Day, we work with them on an ongoing basis. And one of the big things that we hear from schools and education is that people don't just want a day and you're out. They want some continuity of how can you support them, get their students from awareness into a career in digital, which again is very important. Apprenticeship support, we have been, BIMA have been absolutely integral to the new Junior Content Executive apprenticeship that will launch in September. It is the only one that our industry has defined that has been signed off. For anybody involved in apprenticeships, the amount of effort that goes into actually getting an apprenticeship designed and signed off through BIS is quite incredible. And certainly an area that we'd love to see made more accessible and enjoyable as a process. And then thirdly, consultation on education standards. We work incredibly hard with Creative Skill Set, with CIC, and a number of bodies to make sure, again, BIMA is a voice of employers of our industry, to make sure that the voice of employers is going into all of the millions and indeed billions of pounds worth of money that is now being spent to get our nation equipped to be digital leaders. So I suppose in terms of closing remarks against that landscape, and and sort of putting a BIMA hat on, what can we do about that? So initiatives that support awareness and intent are very good, and Digital Day is our flagship. As an industry body, as somebody who brings together employers, can we do more together to at least get the awareness thing box ticked, so that we have a bigger potential pipeline of talent? In terms of also strong employee engagement in reform, I think that that's absolutely key. There are so many opportunities to get involved in consultation with government and their sort of bodies at the moment. And again, you're all here because you're interested, and BIMA is a conduit to getting your voice involved in the future of how our education systems are defined to bring talent through. And I think that one of the big things that we're sort of spending a lot of time in at the moment is all of those things will take a long time. Getting apprenticeships, getting exams, getting standards through takes time. And what can we do in the interim while education is catching up? And we'll hear a lot from colleges and schools here tonight about some of those programs where there are active and really good programs already in play that we can really leverage to help get over some of our challenges. And the last thing that I would always call for is a joined up response from government. There is, as far as I can see, a crazy amount of initiatives popping up all over the place that appear incredibly uncoordinated, whether that's apprenticeship standards, review of our BTEC systems, etc., even our careers service, or especially our careers service. There's some very odd and disparate things happening at the moment in terms of government's response, and BIMA has a responsibility to represent the industry, and I'd hope you join us in that, in terms of making sure that any money that is spent and any effort is spent in the right place, and will deliver on what we all hope for, which is basically getting over this huge problem we have around digital skills and diversity. Thank you.